I remember the day I decided to make the video tribute for Dad like it was yesterday. I sat at my desk in our cramped New York apartment, surrounded by faded photographs and scattered mementos from my childhood. A stack of old home videos lay beside me, each one a fragment of laughter, tears, and mundane Sundays that felt more precious now than ever. I'd just turned 25, and for the first time I felt the full weight of our family history pressing on my shoulders. As I clicked import, my heart fluttered with excitement and trepidation in equal measure. Dad was the rock of our family, steady, no nonsense. Always putting in extra hours as a mechanic to keep the bills paid. He rarely showed emotion openly, but I'd seen moments when his guard slipped, the catch in his voice as he watched me graduate high school, the tight hug after my first heartbreak in college. I wanted the tribute to capture all of that. I carefully curated clips, him teaching me to change a tire, me proudly handing him a homemade Father's Day card, our shared adventures hiking in upstate New York, each moment wove into the next, like a tapestry of our life together. As I layered in soft piano music, I imagined Dad watching with a proud smile, maybe even shedding a tear. My roommate, Mia, hovered behind me, offering feedback on transitions and timing. She reminded me to balance emotion with pacing so the video felt natural. I added title cards with quotes he'd said over the years: family first and work hard, stay humble. The final scene lingered on a sunset photo we'd snapped at Jones Beach last summer. I rendered the file, my finger hovering over share. My breath caught as I typed his email address. That evening, Dad called me from the garage. He sounded tired. His shop had a big job lined up and he'd been pulling double shifts. I could hear the rumble of engines and the hiss of compressed air in the background. I told him I'd sent something special, that I hoped it would bring a smile. He grunted a sound I'd learned to interpret as "I'll check it later." I tried to press him, insisted he watch it now, but he brushed me off. His tone was gentle but firm. "Later," he said. "I've got work to do." His world was one of wrenches and grease. Mine was in pixels and soundtracks. The next morning, I tiptoed around the apartment, my phone buzzing. Mia peeked at my screen and grinned. He opened it. My chest tightened. I watched as the playhead moved. I pictured Dad sitting in his worn leather armchair, headphones on, eyes softening. But then my phone remained silent. No message, no reaction emojis, nothing. I stared at the blank chat window. Nothing. I waited. Minutes passed like hours. "Maybe he needs more time," Mia consoled. I nodded, but I felt a hollow ache grow inside me. Each silent second a reminder of his emotional distance. By mid-afternoon, I couldn't stand it. I called his cell. It went straight to voicemail. Panic fluttered in my chest. I called again. Same. I left a trembling message. "Hey Dad, I'd love to hear what you think." My words floated unanswered into the ether. I stared at the computer, the tribute ready to play but caught in digital limbo. I felt ridiculous, 25 years old, seeking approval like a child craving bedtime praises. But this was more than approval. It was closure, connection, understanding. That night I drove to the shop unannounced. The neon sign buzzed overhead. As I stepped inside, grease-stained overalls hung from hooks, and the scent of oil and coffee lingered. I found him crouched under a car, the chassis hoisted on jacks. He looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. "What are you doing here?" he asked, voice rough from years of shouting orders over engines. I stepped forward, the tribute file burning in my palm. "I need you to watch this," I said. I held out my phone, the play button blinking patiently. He wiped his hands on a rag and took the phone, raising an eyebrow. We stood silent under fluorescent lights. He tapped play. The familiar melody began. The soft glow of the screen illuminated his face as footage rolled, my childhood laughter, his congratulatory hugs, the quiet pride in his eyes when he watched me grow up. I watched him. His expression softened. I saw the rigid lines around his mouth relax. A single tear escaped and traced a path down his cheek. Then, halfway through, the screen went black. I blinked. Dad looked at me, confusion mixing with sorrow. He tapped the screen. No sound returned. The tribute stuttered and froze, a silent testament to my fear of vulnerability. My breath caught. He handed me back the phone without a word. "It's broken," he finally said. His voice was trembling. I swallowed hard, struggling to find words. "No," I whispered, "it's not broken, it's just silent." He stared at me, and in that moment I realized what the silence meant. He had nothing to say, because words would break him open. I reached out, placing a hand on his arm. The warmth of his skin beneath my fingers anchored me. His silence echoed louder than any critique he could have spoken. The video played in my mind unspoken, every memory, every moment of love between us. Though the screen was dark, I felt more seen than ever before. I climbed into the passenger seat as Dad steered my old Honda down the dimly lit Brooklyn streets, the tires humming against damp asphalt. The cold November air seeped through a cracked window, carrying the faint scent of roasted chestnuts from a vendor up ahead. My heart felt both heavy and surprisingly buoyant after that moment in the garage. The broken video, still playing in my mind with eloquent silence. Outside, familiar brownstones drifted past, each one a silent witness to our shared history. Normally Dad would point out a new mural or an Art Deco lamppost, but tonight he drove in thoughtful quiet. The hum of the engine was our only soundtrack. For the first time I sensed a shift. His guard wasn't fully down, but a crack had formed. Letting sunlight in, I clenched and unclenched my fists, unsure whether to speak or simply let the silence carry us home. I swallowed against the lump in my throat and reached for his hand. His fingers were calloused and warm around mine, a grounding reassurance no therapy session had ever provided. "Thanks for watching," I said softly, the words catching on a breath of emotion. Dad glanced at me, jaw tight. Then he nodded, his silence holding more meaning than any praise. We drove past the old Italian bakery where I used to buy cannoli on Saturdays, past the school where I'd first tried out for the soccer team and he cheered me on. Memories flooded in, him teaching me to drive, his calm voice guiding me through panic on wet roads. I realized I didn't need him to say "I love you" tonight. His presence, his silence was enough. My chest swelled with gratitude and a bittersweet ache for words left unspoken. Over 25 years, back at the apartment, the place felt empty without Mia's energy, but Dad and I settled into the living room together. I fumbled with the remote, determination igniting in me. "Let's try again," I said. Selecting the file on my laptop, he leaned in, eyebrows drawn, and watched as the tribute flickered to life. This time, I muted the piano track and overlaid an audio clip of our favorite radio DJ's morning band or something goofy to make him smile. He cracked when the DJ mispronounced our neighborhood, and I felt the tension in his shoulders release as footage rolled. My childhood laughter, his proud hugs. I narrated softly, recounting each story with affectionate detail. Dad's eyes glistened, and when we reached our Jones Beach sunset, he covered his mouth with one hand until I reached over to squeeze his knee in solidarity. When the video ended, Dad exhaled a shaky breath and looked at me, gaze unguarded. "You've got a gift," he admitted, voice low. His words echoed in the room like a long-awaited echo. Tears sprang in my eyes, and I nodded, unable to reply. He sank into the overstuffed chair, head tilted back as though weighing the magnitude of his own admission. I perched on the couch edge, fingertips trembling as I replayed my favorite moment, the two of us hiking Bear Mountain. My triumphant smile at the peak. Dad adjusted the laptop, zooming in on his younger face in the footage. I never saw myself that way," he murmured. He needed to see not just our memories but himself through my eyes to truly understand the depth of our bond. The next morning, I woke to the aroma of bacon sizzling in the kitchen. Steam billowed from Dad's cast iron skillet as he scraped eggs into a stainless steel bowl. He hummed a scratchy recording from my childhood, an old mix we used to jam to. While carefully flipping pancakes, I slid onto a stool beside him, marveling at how safe and at home I suddenly felt. "Here," he handed me a plate piled with golden pancakes, crisp bacon, and eggs studded with chives. We ate in companionable silence, each bite brimming with newfound warmth. I told him about my plan to submit my portfolio to the New York Film Academy next month, and my panic about tuition. His expression softened and he placed a hand over mine. "We'll figure it out," he said simply. In that moment, I believed him completely. Weeks blurred by in a whirlwind of editing sessions and application essays. But Dad was there every step of the way. He taught me the mechanics of budgeting, drawing from years of balancing college loans and surprise repairs. He even drove me to an open house at the academy, leaning against a wall as I toured the editing suite and soundstage. Later we sat on a bench outside, amber leaves swirling at our feet. I turned to him, heart racing. "What if I don't get in?" I asked. He studied me, the lines around his eyes softening. "Then I'll remind you why you did it in the first place," he replied. His words carried a security I'd never expected. Our journey wasn't obstacle-free, but armed with his quiet confidence and my creative vision, I felt ready for whatever came next. As the sun dipped below the skyline, I knew our story, our real, imperfect, beautifully silent story, was only just beginning. I slipped into bed the night after the showcase, my body vibrating with residual adrenaline. In the narrow window of my dorm room, the street lamp's golden beam traced patterns through the blinds, casting bars of light that danced across my quilt. I could still hear Dad's voice echoing in my mind. "You've shown me how to fix my heart." My eyelids fluttered, weighed down by joy, uncertainty, and the hum of Manhattan's nocturnal rhythm just beyond my window. I lay there, attentive to the silence, as if it, too, carried hidden meaning. Morning arrived in waves of cool air and distant traffic. I dressed slowly, savoring the ritual, pulling on faded jeans that felt like an old friend, slipping into my Favorite navy blue cardigan, brushing my hair until the tangles fell away. I glanced at the Polaroid I'd taped to the mirror, Dad, and me grinning in front of the Academy's foyer, and felt a warmth bloom in my chest. Breakfast in the communal lounge smelled like slightly burnt waffles and reheated coffee, but I leaned into the clatter of students chirping about weekend plans. Each face I recognized felt like a knot in this new web of connections, and I belonged here. My first class, Advanced Narrative Filmmaking, convened in a sunlit studio on the 3rd floor. The expanse of windows overlooked the street below, where yellow cabs wove through gridlocked traffic. The instructor, a weary man whose tattoos peeked from rolled-up sleeves, spoke about finding the soul of your story. He challenged us to capture authenticity in every frame, an idea I had already lived when Dad and I resurrected our relationship through that tribute. During the break, I wandered to the editing bay where the hum of Mac Pros and the soft glow of monitors felt like home. I settled into a high-backed swivel chair and opened Final Cut Pro, fingers itching to refine my documentary further. At midday, I met with my team for the next group project, a short film about community gardens in Queens. We piled into a cramped conference room where sticky notes crawled over every surface, each color coding an element of our storyboard. I sketched shot lists, noting how morning dew on lettuce leaves could shimmer like tears, or how children's laughter among raised beds could underscore resilience. One teammate, Andre, praised my attention to small details. Another, Priya, admired my ability to weave emotional arcs. Their affirmations felt like invisible stitches, knitting me more tightly into this collaborative tapestry. After class, I ducked into the campus cafe, where the hiss of espresso machines mingled with indie folk playing softly overhead. I ordered a turmeric latte, its earthy aroma wrapping around my senses, and perched by a window overlooking a grove of maple trees, their leaves already tinged with autumn's first blush. I pulled out my notebook and began drafting the narrative voiceover for our garden film, imagining the soil scent, the gentle scrape of trowels, and the gardener's weathered hands cupped as if offering seeds of hope. Each phrase felt alive, charged with the same quiet power that had moved Dad to tears. By late afternoon, the sky had clouded over, and a light drizzle pattered against the courtyard's cobblestones. I grabbed Dad's call before heading to the location shoot, a brief but treasured moment, protected by layers of anticipation. His voice crackled with static, and I pictured him in the garage, the floor dusted with metal shards, wrench in hand. "How's my filmmaker?" he asked, and I laughed into the phone, marveling at the ease of our rapport. I told him about the irrigation shots we planned and how I hoped to capture that moment. When sunlight broke through rain clouds in the greenhouse, he said, "Sounds perfect. Don't forget to breathe." His advice, simple but profound, grounded me. The shoot itself was a ballet of movement and stillness. I crouched low to the ground, the lens framing a single droplet slipping from a tomato leaf. The puddles reflected the dull gray sky, turning each frame into a living mirror of nature's persistence. I cued sound guy Maria to let ambient noise fill the track, the drip of water, the distant call of a sparrow, the low murmur of volunteers exchanging advice. At one point, an elderly woman offered me a freshly picked basil leaf. Its herbaceous scent lingered on my fingertips long after I tucked it into my pocket. These unplanned gifts, like Dad's tearful pause before he spoke, became the vitality of the film. When dusk settled, I trudged back to the dorm, muscles pleasantly sore, and heart brimming with creative fuel. I replayed the day in my mind, the newsroom-like intensity of the class critique, the cafe's golden hush, the rain-kissed beauty of the garden inside. I found a text from Dad. "Can't wait to see what you've captured. Proud of you." 2 words, "proud of you," glowed on my screen, warming me more than any heater could. I settled at my desk under a cluster of fairy lights, opening my laptop to begin editing. The footage unfolded, each clip a small narrative gem, and I sculpted them into a sequence that felt both documentary and personal essay. Hours slipped by in a rhythmic trance, until I realized my stomach was growling. I took a break to heat leftover pasta in the communal kitchen, the garlic butter sizzling in the pan, the aroma weaving through the hallway. Plates clanked as I carried my dinner back to my room. Mindful of the quiet respect of others studying or sleeping, I ate slowly, savoring the meal like a meditation, then returned to the screen. At 2:17 a.m., I hit export. The file spun into existence, 12 minutes and 43 seconds of lived experience, ready to be shared. I crawled into bed again, exhaustion and elation tangling in my chest. Before sleep claimed me, I recorded a quick voice memo, how today felt like living inside a poem, how I was learning to shape reality into art, how every moment, no matter how mundane, held cinematic potential. Tomorrow would bring critiques, deadlines, maybe frustrations. But I knew that with Dad's silent strength behind me and my own voice finally unchained, I could meet each challenge. I drifted off, slipping into dreams bright with possibility and the promise of stories yet untold.